right, next up we have a campsite chat. Now, and because it's a campsite chat, I would like to sort of set up the room for our campsite chat. The chairs, sorry gentlemen, we need 2 chairs down there, and I would like to request all of you to come and occupy the tables at the front and get cozy with your neighbors, bring your chairs. You don't need chairs, okay. Okay, no problem. All right, I'd request people at the back to just come a little bit forward and just occupy all the tables at the front. If you want to bring your chairs, that's fine as well. You can leave your belongings behind. I think that's the workplace hazard, so we're not going to do that. So today's topic that we're going to discuss is the art of corporate diplomacy, managing relationships with the media. So this session promises to shed light on how to cultivate a lasting relationship with the media that's going to help and benefit your organization's goals. Our speakers today are Maya Matkar, international keynote speaker from Maya Talks Motivation, and Henry Lerentveld, managing partner at neways.dev.
Yeah, but you knew that already, right? So forget about that.
They requested everyone to come forward, so it'll be nice if people could just come a little bit forward from the back.
Please don't be shy, come on.
Get cozy. I mean, we've spent the whole day together.
I have presents with me also.
Actual flame here.
Yeah, we've asked you to do this because we would like to close with a kind of interactive session because we see that the energy is a bit dropping, people checking their phones, etc. So in order to kind of inspire you, we chose for this campsite chat. Yeah, well, that is a good question. Well, the topic is called The Art of Corporate Diplomacy, Managing Relationships with the Media. But we think that the issue is a bit broader than just media. And what we would like to do with you is develop a case study. So we would like to gain your ideas also where it comes to strategy. And we've set it up in the following way. I will tell you a bit about the case. And then, I will tell you a bit about the case. Then Maya will tell you something about positive psychology. Then I will take it back again and talk to you about strategy in times of crisis. And then Maya will close with what you can do with positive psychology where it comes to individuals and on the corporate level. That's what we came up with. Now the case. You can move to the other. Yes, it's working. So we would like to resolve this one jointly. We are doing interim management in a mid-sized media company. So it is a media-sensitive environment already. For about 1,000 employees, and they have financial losses. That endanger the continuation. And the management made a mess. That's why the management has left. That's important to understand. And there's interim management, to resolve this issue. They're at the verge of bankruptcy, and we need to prepare a rescue plan in order to have our talks with creditors, banks, and other stakeholders, financial institutions. 1/3 of the staff will have to leave. Keep that in mind too. Maya, can you tell something about, a short introduction about positive psychology in these kind of issues?
Yeah, that's okay. I didn't want to steal your mic. Okay, so basically, he's bringing me an extra mic. Thank you so much. So Henry's going to talk about a specific case, a specific instance, but what I want to talk to you about today is positive psychology and what it stands for and how we can use it. Thank you so much. And how we can use it, thanks Henry, and how we can use it to lead better lives as individuals, as leaders, as managers, as stakeholders. Most of us tend to think that positive psychology, first of all, let me start by defining what it is. Nell was on a panel this morning and she repped the discipline, so now it's my turn. So positive psychology is the study of what makes us spectacular, what makes us remarkable, what makes us memorable. It's the science of optimal human functioning. It's the science of motivation. It's the science of well-being. It's the science of humanity. And I think at this day and age, we need it more than anything else, not just because we live in a VUCA world and not because of the current situation in the region and not because of the situation in the Red Sea and not because of all of the things that we're experiencing at this stage in our lives, but because you need positive psychology to flourish. You need positive psychology to make a mark on humanity, to make a dent in the universe, to leave a legacy. You need it at all times. It's an eternal, ethereal field. It's a way of life. It's a way of seeing the world. So back to Henry's case study, because I can go on for hours, is positive psychology and positive psychology interventions are not just for the good times. They're not just for, I want my company to become a Fortune 500 company. They're not because you want to go above and beyond. They're actually equally as effective and equally as resourceful during times of crisis. If not the most efficient, most resourceful, most effective way to handle crises is through a focus on positive psychology, because one of the premises that this field rests on is that within each and every single one of us, despite all the evidence to the contrary, there is what's known as a heliotropic effect, a heliotropic effect. The heliotropic effect basically refers to sunflowers. If you've ever seen a sunflower field, you'll notice that all the sunflowers are always, always, always facing the sun. And we're exactly like those sunflowers. We are designed to thrive, we're designed to flourish, we're designed to face the sun. So when things get difficult, when there's challenges, when a company is going bankrupt and you need to lay off a third of your employees, you need to resort to positive psychology, and I'll get to the details of that in a bit.
Right. So I'm going to do the strategy a bit with you. In managing communication with the staff, and there are two levels, collectively and individually. What do you think would be the best option for communication? Would you be defensive? Would you say, this is a serious matter, we need to better keep things behind our cards? Or would you choose a rather open, informative, and transparent way of communicating? You.
We have questions already. How cool is that?
Oh, yeah. No.
Oh.
But first,
What's that?
congratulations, sir. You're the first official owner.
You just keep handing those out everywhere you go, so
sure,
generous.
Sure.
First of all, being in interim management, the natural reaction that you would have is to blame the management that has left and talk to people about how horrible the situation is and what they need to possibly do. The right approach for the interim management should be, in my opinion, is to be transparent, be open, have an interactive session just like you're having, identify the problems, because you may have people in the audience who know where the problems are coming from, and they could contribute. Now, when you have senior managers and esteemed guests like yourselves talking, there's natural intimidation. Nobody wants to raise their hand and say, I would like to speak about this stuff. As a next step, after the open session, you have to call the key personnel, head of departments or head of key functions, to have then the one-on-one sessions and have the debate in terms of what is it that they're going through and what could be the possible solution.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Well, wait.
Do you want? You can take my.
I have actually. Oh my God.
More cookies.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
See, you should have
to be
won
like you now.
first. Like you should.
Yeah. No contamination. In 2015, I was working in a company that has financial crisis. I talk about in my panel discussion for succession plan. The company has decided to go with a redundancy plan for around 130, something like this. Is very huge number, and people they were, they got emotion, all right, at that time, and during the action date, they have made a strike in front of the company, and it went well, over reacted with the government and everything. At the time that the government opened the investigation and everything, every single manager at that time, he was outside of the kingdom.
Oh wow.
All of them. And myself and my colleague, we had to face all the challenges that we have seen at that time. So what we have did, and I really thanks Almighty God for supporting me with the good ideas at that time. We have different solutions at that time, and we worked. Now it is emotional now. So we worked as toward the employee itself. So we said, okay, let's come over here. Now the strike is not going to do anything. The company didn't do anything illegal. All right, let's come over here. Let's review and explore a lot of options that we have. And in order to do the right thing for you, let's just go with the pros and cons and define what is the best solution for you. And this was the best option that we have did at that time. Thank you for your time. I'm really sorry.
You're welcome.
One reaction to
There's one.
that's the one. He said something very interesting because he said, well, you can be transparent, but don't blame it on a personal level. That is the essence of what you said, right? And that is indeed very important. It would be very tempting to say, that guy did it. Don't do that. Stay away from that, because then you ruin your communication strategy. In fact, now to you.
I was just thinking that
Simon.
in this situation, you risk, if you went out and said, look, we're going to have to downsize, generally speaking, like your underperformers are going to hold on with like gripped hands, and your high performers are going to be looking elsewhere kind of almost immediately. So if you do go kind of open and transparent, you do risk losing vast swathes of your kind of people who can then sort of move around. So I think whilst it's an admirable thing to say, look, we just want to have an open discussion, people will internalize and make up their own outcomes for this. And if they have a lot of options, we've seen this a lot, right? They're just going to go somewhere else, and then what you're left with a not as productive workforce.
Yeah.
So maybe the more personal, you know what I mean, like not going big bang, do you know what I mean, straight away, and saying, okay, we need to have more targeted conversations with cohorts around, it's going to be there, who's not.
One technical remark. Can we go to the next slide, please? Because we don't have a clicker here. Yes, okay, good. What you said basically means that you would devise between the different people in positions in the company, right? And how is that with because this is a media company, so the newspapers and broadcasting stations are ready to take the lead in it and to take it over. What would you do there?
I mean, nothing's real until it's real. We used to do this. We worked for a very big organization. I was wondering, actually, like, where are my biscuits?
No.
We worked for a very big organization that used to go through this change every 2 years. And they used to say, look, change is inevitable. It's kind of just going to happen. But we would all make up our own stories, because in a vacuum of information, you create your own kind of myths within the business. And the reality is kind of nothing's done until it's done. And I would be, look, you're going to hear a lot of scuttlebutt, which is what we say is kind of like, just random things about what's going to happen and what the position is. But there are no decisions. We haven't made decisions around this. And you just kind of have to be honest with people and say, look, we haven't decided on this stuff, so things don't snowball out of control before everyone else just starts to make up their own version of the truth.
Right. Basically, what we see is that a strategy has different layers. Huh? So, on a collective level, with the people that stay behind, with the people who let go, on an individual level, and then also probably with the stakeholders, because you have stakeholders that are close to your heart, where you need to be fully open, because else you lose they lose their confidence in your company. And the media, the external media, are also part of this layered strategy, in fact. Is there something you would specifically do where it comes to social media?
Can I just jump in for a minute? Sorry to interrupt, Dr. Jihan. I just want to jump in about the leadership part. I think when it comes to transparency and when it comes to managing crises in general, I think the onus is on us as leaders to create the type of culture where it's open and reflexive and reactive to our reality, to where people are our staff, our family, we call them family members. They wouldn't need to speculate about what's going on. They wouldn't need to wonder what's going to happen. They would know. We would handle it like authentic servant leaders. We would lead by example. We would show the way. We would embody the values that we espouse. It would not just be values pasted beautifully on a wall in our corporate space, free coffee and all those perks. None of that stuff matters when my salary is on the line, when my children's well-being is on the line, when the company is going bankrupt. So I think the onus is on leaders. It's up to us as leaders to embody those values and to be open and transparent and to create a culture where that is viable and possible. Go ahead, yeah, thank you.
I believe whatever you say at a juncture such as that, when people's jobs are on the line, one of the practices that is hardly been practiced is the interim management or the management before. They can personally refer some of the 300 employees to other companies down the line.
Yeah.
That is, as a practice, should be when you are laying off, you should actually figure out ways to incorporate these talents. They can't all be bad. Means during this layoffs since 2023, I know a lot of companies that have hired on the spree during COVID-19, and they have let people go just because of their misplanning and foolish strategy. So when you hired them and you are laying them off within the next 2 years, you should at least be sensible enough to recommend them to some of the other business leaders that you might be knowing, and in turn help them out. That would in fact go a long way in convincing the people that you actually are empathetic towards them, you actually care about them, rather than just giving a severance package, which is easy to do.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Sir.
Mike. Yeah.
Mike.
I think we have to be aware that the biggest challenge as interim management is the fact that you don't have the trust of the staff. So if you come in as interim management, the most fundamental aspect before you communicate, before you decide on the strategy, is understanding you don't have the trust of the existing 1,000 employees. And no matter how effective your strategy might be around communicating, what are you doing first to establish the trust and to convey the message to the 1,000 people?
Such a great question.
Right? In terms of you're here to perform, not a job, or you're not here to come in just because the previous management ducked and ran, but you're here to effectively find a solution.
Yeah.
And if you look at that list you have there, great list, I would say because of the times that we all live in, the one that's at the bottom of the list should be right at the top, front and center.
Yeah, mind you, this is a company of professionals, huh? So they don't climb the barricades immediately, and you can achieve a lot with transparency and honesty, so to say. Also, to take away the suspiciousness that people have against interim managers, because also that is an issue, as you might know, in interim management.
Sorry, what was that? Oh, thank you so much.
Oh,
Okay.
lovely.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Got one slide to go, so
Yeah,
no
but
problem.
still, thank you. We still appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Can I, sorry, I wanted to answer your question about psychological safety, but we'll address it after this question.
I need another box of these.
Oh,
That's why it's
Are you going to go first, or do I?
You first have to talk, and then you get
Okay,
your cookie. No, not
So
before.
It seems to me if you're doing this, it has to be in the most humane way possible.
Yeah.
And so you might sit people down and treat them like human beings. Have grief counseling available. Ask them what you can do to help them with their next job, how you can support them. Perhaps, as he mentioned, you form some sort of social media group of people who got laid off so they can easily communicate with each other
Yeah.
when they're looking for, so they can stay in contact and they can say, well, I found some work over here. This is the place you want to be. And the company can support all of that, knowing that this is tragic.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
you're treating them like family, and you're not just handing a severance package. Where corporations just tend to be lazy when there's bad news, and I think it's time to dig in and to work, and to put the people that are going to stay behind to work on the people that are being let go. Let them be part of that process, and to move people out as humanely as you possibly can, but solve the problem.
Just, I want to address both your questions. I think the bottom line is when it comes to psychological safety and when it comes to cushioning the blow of getting laid off, is the fact of the matter is corporations, businesses, conglomerates, whatever the case may be, they're people, right? They're made of people. It's a conglomeration of people. It's a collection of people. And the bottom line is people are people. We want to know that the people that I've worked for, that I've supported, that I've toiled and labored for actually care about me. So if one day I have to get laid off from my job, I'm an entrepreneur, but like hypothetically, if that were to be the case, I would like to know that the people that I worked with care about me, that there's a process in place to where I can find other work. Like for the positive psychology aspect of it and positive leadership, there were actual cases where leaders had to do mass layoffs, and they were actually successful. They bettered the company, and they were actually quite successful at those mass layoffs because they did it in a way that was genuine. They did it in a way that was authentic. They did it in a way that showed the people that were getting laid off that they cared. And it was just a matter of time before they found other means of employment, and that's how you do it. Questions here? Yes, Dr. Jihan, you were waiting for a while, and
I need another box.
person next to Dr. Jihan.
Actually, before I say how we can communicate, what the way that we can communicate in any like any fields or any organizations, so we get to see the objective of meaning of communication, why we want to do that. So I think the objective in anything that's, in my opinion, just to find an ultimate goal for all the the stakeholders to have an ownership of this. So if we find the common ownership of any organization, that it will be easily to communicate and know how to communicate, especially that we are working in different cultures, different nationalities, so we have to know how to find out a common ownership. And from that perspective that we know how to can communicate, definitely it has added the transparency, that like competitive, all the things that have be a good communications and
Absolutely.
relations. Thank you.
Yeah, very nice, absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think
These are the last two cookies that we have. So
So
after this we
no
can
more
stop.
questions.
So I'll just an extension to what Gary said. Is a very. I just wanted to support it with an example. There was a edtech company, or rather, there is an edtech company in India which had gone through a similar process of downsizing, and what the company and the CEO did was the people who were laid off, the CEO himself sort of marketed them on a social networking platform saying, you know, he and she has been so and so performer, you know, gave out their report cards on the social media and then sort of, you know, prompted people to hire them. So that's the sort of connect that he had and he built with the employees. And I've heard that some of the employees have chosen to stay back with a huge pay cuts as well, just because of his gesture of doing this. So I think that's very important. Communication, transparency is the key, but I think being empathetic about all of this is going to reward you in the long term.
That's leadership.
That's leadership.
In this particular example, because it's an actual case, we gathered all the people in a meeting and explained them the whole of the financial problems the company was in, but still without mentioning the individual measures that we took in terms of people laying off. And that happened the days after that in individual arrangements, in individual meetings. So we separated, let's say, the information that we needed to share from the individual cases that we had. Do you think that's a wise way of dealing with these kind of issues?
I think, Henry, there was a question there from the lady. I've got a mic, so I've got the benefit of asking a question, but
Now
she had raised her hand.
Maybe you don't see me.
Hello, yeah,
Hello.
go for it.
Well, I would like to put another topic on these reflections because in my experience, I had the opportunity to support a company and the board of directors in a very similar case of our case history. And I think that one of the additional point here is retain talent in those situations. And in my experience, what we worked firstly was in a kind of checklist. Of course, define a clear strategy to reverse the trend of the company and change completely the picture. Make communication and with strong transparency to all the entire team, but in the same time, connect with the key people, with the talented people that are our best ambassadors in a reversing trend. So these are the key persons that will talk every day at the coffee machine or in the garden or at the parking with all the rest of 1,000 people and explaining where the company is going. And another point to me is that social media can be used for kings or dogs, okay, for everybody. And everybody has the power in this social world to write everything he wants in the way that he wants. So I think that we moved in the last maybe 15, 20 years from a hierarchical organization to horizontal organization, where many times our employees knows about the company before than us that we are leading. So being the ones that really talk to the world is crucial. So I think that the board need to take the responsibility to be the first that communicate, to be the ones that inform the words through the social medias, because otherwise others will talk as they want and what they want.
That's a very good point. I mean, if there's no clear and transparent communication, people are going to speculate. There's going to be rumors. It's going to spiral out of control, and that's again part and parcel of creating and establishing healthy, vibrant, thriving corporate cultures. That's how you do it. That's precisely how you do it.
Maya and Henry, I think what Jihan was saying about the objectives. Now, clearly the objective is to rescue the company from the financial crisis, right? Obviously, you have to communicate not the individual measures, but you have to come up with high-level sort of activities that need to be done. I've gone through this experience myself when in 2008, the US had a fever and we were sneezing in Central Eastern Europe with the financial crisis. I used to work for Citibank. We had received a huge bailout from the Congress, and everybody was being asked to lay off people and downsize and so on and so forth. We were not in a position to do that. I was running a company of about 1,200 people, and the first call I got from the region was, fire your driver, fire the tellers in the branches, and fire this and fire that. I said, they're not going to save the company, right? Fighting the bottom end is not going to save the company. I think for the management, any company, not just this media company that's going through this crisis, you have to look at the fat. Where is the fat in the organization? And people should be the last area you should talk about in terms of letting go or firing. There could be interim leave of absence from the company until we survive and come back. So at least I know that you will get out of this problem, because guess what's going to happen 6 months or 12 months down the road? When you do survive this financial crisis, you're going to have to rehire people at possibly higher salary bands than you were able to do so in terms of retention of the existing clients. So while I'm not a big advocate of severance packages and letting people go, I think conscious decisions have to be made in terms of where else can you cut the fat and survive.
Yeah, but keep in mind, in this situation,
It's up to the
throat,
yeah.
So
So if you have to let go, I still stand behind my initial thoughts. And I think as far as social media is concerned, I think it's been already said, it's a double-edged sword. If you're not going to say something openly, somebody else is going to. So it's better that you come honestly and come forward and take the responsibility and talk about what you're going to do about it. A lot of times, denial is the first thing people have, and people, if they're questioned on their face, are you going to shut down your business? No, our health is very good. We are standing behind our organization, and a week later, the CEO is out with a golden parachute, and the rest of the people are left behind. So I think a leadership has to take their responsibility.
Denial is not just a river in Egypt. I had to say that because I'm Egyptian. Sorry. Do you guys know that joke? Anyway. Oh, we have a question here.
Maybe a last thought. I got one. Right here.
No, Henry's on top of it. Henry's on top of the
So often
cookie.
in crises, people, I had a business mentor say, you're working on the wrong end of the problem. So we have a problem. Look at the outcome first and decide how do you get to the outcome. The outcome you want is for people that you let go to say, man, that was a good company. I'm so sorry this happened to them. I hope they can survive this. That's your outcome. Start from there, get the executive team to work backwards until you get that outcome. Do what you have to do to make that happen. Don't start with the problem. Start with the outcome.
Yeah, I know, right? Let's all work for him. Do you want to add any last points, Henry, or?
No, I think we covered the strategy. It's clear that we all think that it should be layered, that it's based on transparency as much as possible, with tactical choices in who to be in the level of transparency. I think that's the general idea. But I would like you to go a little bit deeper into how you deal with people that lose their job.
That's such a great question. I think it's everything that we've talked about thus far. And I think we've covered that ground quite well. I think something that's really transformative, really transformational during crisis points and otherwise is adopting this thing in positive psychology that we call appreciative inquiry, AI, not the other not the other kind of AI. So appreciative inquiry is basically focusing on our strengths. It's a strengths-based approach to life, to work and life. Because remember, initially at the presentation, we're going to connect this to positive psychology for our work life and our personal life. So this applies to both. Is how can you adopt a strengths-based approach to address all and any of your problems? What do I do well? What are my strengths? What are my values? And there are surveys and questionnaires and stuff that you can actually take to understand those things. How do we fall in love with our strengths? And how can we do that? And how can we work on our strengths to weather any storm, right? And let's not underestimate the fact, and let's not overlook the fact that getting fired is really painful. It's destabilizing, it's heartbreaking, it can break up a family. So we're not glossing over how tragic that can be, especially if somebody worked really hard, especially if you invested a long time in a company. So we're not sugarcoating any of that stuff. We're not putting a positive spin on it at all. We're just discussing and assessing how we can make it just a little bit better, how we can make it, how we can humanize leadership, because that's essentially what we've been saying, I think, from the start of this fireside or campsite chat is, how can leaders be more human? Nobody follows a leader that's like, yes, I'm like the best, or that's obsolete. We're looking for leaders that are motivating. We're looking for leaders that are inspiring. We're looking for chief empathy officers. And that transcends gender, that transcends culture, that transcends race, that transcends age. It's who you are. It's who you are as a person, and how you lead people and lead the masses. That's what people are looking for. And that's where positive psychology again steps in.
We have 1 minute, 20 seconds left, and
we're not going to go over time.
We will stop exactly at 000, no worries.
Yeah.
Because we know that you are very tired.
Yes.
In this particular example, we made a social arrangement for the people that were let go, and within 4 months, everyone had another job. So
wow.
In that sense,
yeah.
And we're not talking now. This is a few years ago, so in the times that jobs were still kind of scarce. Yeah. Anyway, 40 seconds left. Thanks very much. Did you like this kind of approach? Because we felt that you, yeah?
Thank you.